The marble floors of the Rayburn House office building reflected the morning light like water. Reporters gathered in small clusters near the main hearing room, their whispers carried through the echoing corridor. Cameras clicked, pens scratched, and the low hum of expectation grew heavier with each passing second. Inside, the House Oversight Committee chamber waited. Rows of dark mahogany desks curved toward the witness table, where a single chair sat under a halo of white light. The nameplate read, Karoline Leavitt, former White House press secretary, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, sat at the center of the dais, flipping through a thick binder. Her expression was calm, unreadable, but her eyes were sharp enough to cut through stone. She glanced toward her aide, who whispered a final note about the leaked memos circulating the press that morning. Evidence that Leavitt had allegedly coordinated statements from the podium that contradicted intelligence briefings. The double doors opened. Karoline Leavitt stepped in, dressed in a gray blazer, chin high, jaw tight. She carried a folder close to her chest like armor. The cameras turned as one, flashes breaking the room's stillness. Every step she took echoed against the wood panels until she reached the table. She paused, inhaled, and sat down. The clerk stood, voice steady and formal. "Please raise your right hand." Leavitt complied, her voice firm as she took the oath. "Do you swear that the testimony you are about to give is the truth? The whole truth, and nothing but the truth?" "I do." The words hung in the air like a challenge. Jasmine Crockett leaned forward slightly, microphone angled toward her. "Ms. Leavitt, you served as press secretary for the administration for 11 months, correct?" "Yes, Congresswoman. And during that time, you held 237 press briefings." "That's correct. In at least 17 of those, you made claims about federal investigations that the Justice Department has since said were factually inaccurate. Do you deny that?" A flicker crossed Leavitt's face. Not quite fear, not quite defiance. "I deny any intent to mislead the public. My statements were based on information available at the time." Crockett didn't blink. "Information provided by whom?" Leavitt hesitated. "By senior advisors." The room stiffened. A few reporters scribbled faster. Crockett continued, tone smooth but edged with precision. "Those advisors, were they political appointees or members of the intelligence community?" Leavitt's throat worked. "Mostly political, so not intelligence professionals, not analysts who verify facts." "That's not how the process always works, Congresswoman." "But it should be," Crockett interrupted, "because when you stood behind that podium, you weren't a campaign spokesperson. You were the face of the United States government." Leavitt opened her folder, flipping through neatly tabbed documents, trying to control the pace. "If I may, I've included in my written testimony the procedures by which information was cleared before it reached the podium." Crockett's gaze didn't waver. "I've read your testimony. It says you trusted the chain of command. What happens when that chain is rusted with corruption?" A quiet gasp rippled through the audience. The chair banged the gavel once for order. Leavitt's hand tightened around her pen. "Congresswoman, with respect, I'm not here to debate hypotheticals." Crockett smiled slightly, the kind that never reached the eyes. "Neither am I. Let's deal in facts." She clicked her pen and turned a page in her binder. Exhibit C, an internal email dated August 14th, 2023. It shows your office received a classified memo warning that statements about the peaceful clearing of Lafayette Square were inaccurate. You went on television that same afternoon and called the reports false and politically motivated. Do you recall that? Leavitt blinked once. "Yes." "And you stand by it?" "I stand by the fact that the information was changing rapidly at that time." "Changing?" Crockett cut in. "Or being rewritten?" Silence. Even the camera operators stopped moving. Leavitt's voice softened. "I followed the guidance I was given." "That's the truth." Crockett leaned back. "Then perhaps we should talk about who gave that guidance." The chair recognized her for another 5 minutes, but everyone knew Crockett wouldn't need them. She worked methodically, one document at a time, building a timeline that wrapped tighter around the witness with each question. June 3rd. Your deputy sends a message saying, quote, "We can't contradict the Attorney General." June 4th, a meeting with Bill Barr's office is added to your calendar. June 5th, you hold a briefing and say the president had no role in the deployment order. Yet we have testimony from the Defense Department stating otherwise. Leavitt's lips parted, but no words came out. Crockett pressed. Did you coordinate your public statements with Mr. Barr? I met with him occasionally. How many times? I'd have to check my calendar. Crockett didn't look up. You already did. It's in your email log. 7 times in 10 days, the audience murmured. The chair tapped the gavel again. Leavitt steadied her breathing. Those meetings were about message consistency, not about concealing information. Message consistency, Crockett repeated. That's an interesting phrase for what the public called a cover-up. Leavitt's jaw tightened. That's not fair. Neither was lying to the American people, Crockett shot back, her voice low and deliberate. And yet that's what happened. The tension in the room became almost physical, like static before a storm. Leavitt's lawyer shifted uncomfortably behind her, but she waved him off, determined not to look weak. I told the truth as I knew it, she said. I didn't order anyone to alter reports, and I didn't suppress evidence. Crockett closed her binder. Then you won't mind helping us find who did? A murmur spread through the room again. Leavitt hesitated, sensing the trap but unable to avoid it. I'll cooperate, she said softly. To the extent I'm allowed. Crockett leaned in. Allowed by whom? The question hung there, unanswered, the pause stretching so long that even the stenographer slowed her typing. Leavitt finally spoke. By counsel, and by confidentiality agreements. Crockett let the silence linger before replying. Ms. Leavitt, the truth doesn't care about your non-disclosure agreements. The audience reacted, a low swell of noise that the chair tried again to quiet. Crockett gathered her papers. That will be all for now, Madam Chair. The gavel struck once. We'll recess for 10 minutes. The room exploded into motion. Reporters rushing for the hallways, staffers whispering urgently, the buzz of cell phones filling the air. Leavitt sat motionless for a moment, staring at the documents in front of her. Her fingers trembled slightly as she closed the folder. A voice behind her said quietly, You handled that better than expected. It was her attorney, leaning down. But they're not done. She has more. I know, Leavitt replied. I could feel it. She's got something I haven't seen yet. Then we prepare for round 2. Across the room, Jasmine Crockett stood by the window, watching the chaos unfold below. Her aide handed her a phone showing a live headline already flashing across news networks. Leavitt pressed on Lafayette lies, refuses to name source. Crockett's expression didn't change, but her eyes betrayed a flicker of satisfaction. She'll break, she said quietly. They always do. Outside, thunder rolled across the Washington skyline, distant but growing closer. The storm was coming, and everyone in that chamber knew part 2 would be the one that broke someone. Maybe both of them. The room slowly emptied during the recess, leaving only staffers and committee aides behind. Jasmine Crockett remained by the window, reviewing the next set of documents on her tablet. Each file, each email, each memo had been carefully vetted. A chain of evidence that would corner Karoline Leavitt if she tried to spin another narrative. The doors opened again, and the committee reconvened. Cameras clicked back into place, reporters refocused, and the air seemed to thrum with anticipation. Leavitt re-entered, her composure slightly frayed. Her eyes darted toward Crockett, recognizing that this session would not be a routine questioning. Crockett motioned for her to sit, then picked up her binder with precise deliberation. She placed a thick document in front of the witness table. Exhibit H, she announced. An internal briefing note circulated to your office the night before your August 14th press briefing. Leavitt's hand hovered over the folder. I'm familiar with that document. Crockett's gaze was sharp. Familiar enough to understand it directly contradicts your public statement that reports of police action at Lafayette Square were exaggerated. A silence settled over the chamber. Leavitt shifted in her seat, looking toward her attorney, who gave a subtle shake of the head. There was no easy escape here. Ms. Leavitt, Crockett continued, voice firm and measured. Did you knowingly present false information to the public? Leavitt's voice faltered. No. My statements reflected my understanding at the time. Crockett's eyes narrowed. Your understanding based on what? Political guidance? Internal talking points? Or deliberate suppression of evidence? Leavitt swallowed, the words catching in her throat. Congresswoman, Crockett cut her off. Let's go through the chain, step by step. She tapped her binder, flipping to a marked page. June 3rd, internal email. Do not contradict the Attorney General. June 5th, a briefing calling the square clearing peaceful. June 6th, classified memo warning of false representation. And yet, on national television, you repeated the administration's narrative. How do you reconcile this? Leavitt looked down. Her fingers fidgeted with a pen. I was under pressure. I believed I was following protocol. Protocol, Crockett echoed, leaning forward slightly, is not an excuse for lying to the public. You were the face of truth, yet you delivered fiction. That is what we are here to examine, a journalist in the back whispered under their breath, and the camera operators shifted their angles. The tension was tangible, almost electric. Crockett reached into her binder again, pulling out a printed email thread. Here, she said, sliding it across the table. From your deputy. We need to align the public message with the administration's desired narrative. You see, Ms. Leavitt, the memo does not say truth. It says desired narrative. Leavitt glanced at it, her jaw tightening. It's internal guidance, not public instruction. Crockett's tone hardened. Yet your public statements followed it word for word. You testified earlier that you trusted your advisors. Did that trust override your obligation to the American people? Leavitt remained silent, her fingers curling around the edge of the folder. The weight of scrutiny pressed down. Crockett's gaze swept the room. Members of the committee, the evidence shows a consistent pattern. Ms. Leavitt repeatedly presented information she knew, or should have known, was misleading. We are not speculating. We are reviewing documented proof. The committee members murmured among themselves. Some shifted uneasily. Others nodded, the facts aligning too neatly to ignore. Leavitt spoke almost inaudibly. Congresswoman Crockett, you're presenting these facts as though I had intent. I never sought to mislead anyone. Intent is not the measure here, Crockett said sharply. Impact is, and the impact of your statements misinformed the public, influenced national perception, and obscured accountability. Whether deliberate or not, the outcome is the same. The room was silent except for the steady clatter of keys from stenographers. Leavitt's attorney whispered urgently, but she waved him off. She was trapped in the spotlight. Crockett leaned back, flipping through her binder one last time. Exhibit L. A handwritten note found in your office, dated August 13th, indicating awareness that reports about Lafayette Square were inaccurate. You briefed the press the next day anyway. Can you explain that? Leavitt's throat tightened. I thought it was a misunderstanding. A miscommunication. A miscommunication, Crockett repeated, each word deliberate. For 11 months, your office misrepresented information. Today, we confirm that misrepresentation was not accidental. Leavitt's hands shook slightly. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I followed what I was told. Crockett's expression remained unyielding. Following orders is not a defense in matters of public trust. You had a responsibility to verify, to question, to speak truth. You failed, and the record will show it. A committee aide entered, quietly placing additional documents on the witness table. Crockett glanced at them. We have now received corroboration from 3 separate departments confirming the inaccuracies you broadcasted. This is not about opinion. This is about documented fact. Leavitt's eyes darted to the new files, realizing the magnitude of the evidence against her. She leaned back in her chair, the veneer of confidence finally cracking. Crockett's voice softened slightly, almost empathetic, but still commanding. Ms. Leavitt, you may have survived press briefings and political pressure, but facts endure. And today, facts hold you accountable. The chamber remained tense, every observer aware of the weight in the room. Leavitt's hands dropped to her lap, the folder closed. She had no further words to offer. Crockett straightened, gathering her papers with precision. That will conclude this session. The committee will review all testimony and supporting evidence. Ms. Leavitt, you will remain available for follow-up inquiries. The gavel struck, echoing like a final punctuation. Cameras swiveled, reporters jostled, and the room began to clear. Outside, a storm rolled over the city, dark clouds reflecting the mood inside the chamber. Crockett walked to the window, looking down at the gathering media. Headlines were already forming in her mind. Press secretary pressed on Lafayette Square lies. Committee demands accountability. Her aide appeared beside her, tablet in hand. The coverage is going live. Crockett nodded. Good. The public deserves the full story. No exceptions. Leavitt exited the chamber quietly, flanked by her counsel, face pale but controlled. She understood in that moment that this confrontation would not be easily forgotten. Not by her, not by Congress, and certainly not by the American public. Crockett lingered a moment longer, absorbing the weight of what had transpired. She felt the familiar surge of focus and purpose. The evidence was clear. The accountability was now unavoidable, and the story, the truth, had just begun to reach its audience. The storm finally broke, raindrops pattering against the building's marble exterior, as if echoing the inevitable exposure of hidden truths. Inside, the echoes of testimony, tension, and unflinching resolve lingered long after the chamber emptied.